Hello friends, how are you all doing? I am doing great. It has been a long time that we haven't spoken, and the reason is because I was not keeping well. I was under the weather, and that's the reason why I couldn't keep up with my commitment of creating the videos and giving it to you all on the cloud technology. But guys, here I am. As the saying goes, if something doesn't kill you, it only makes you stronger. I am back with a stronger mindset, with a stronger body, a healthy body, and with a strong determination that I'll give you all the videos and all the knowledge that I have about the cloud technology. Now guys, on the screen as you can see, this is my introduction. My name is Tejas Mahendrakar. I call myself the cloud simplifier because I use analogies to simplify the cloud jargons, because there are a lot of cloud jargons here. And initially when I was starting to learn the cloud technology, it was really difficult for me to understand what these services do, and when I can simplify it for you, and I know those pitfalls, and that's the reason why I thought I'll simplify the cloud technology or the cloud jargons for you. Or for example, any of the services. For example, if you take Lambda, for example, right? It is like you're going into a restaurant, you're talking to a chef, asking him or her to make something for you. You're just paying for that. You don't have to worry about renting out the restaurant. You don't have to worry about the ingredients that go into that preparation. You just don't have to worry about anything. If you look at my previous videos, I've exactly talked about this. I've talked about the simplification of the Lambda, and today as well we're going to make a live demo of integration of Lambda with the AWS S3 or the Amazon S3 service. Yes guys, so today what we'll do is we'll create an integration between these two services. And now why is that? Now if you think about Lambda, guys, Lambda is a serverless service. It is function as a service wherein you just provide the code and it runs for a certain amount of time. The only restriction with Lambda is that it runs only for 15 minutes. That's correct, it only runs for 15 minutes. We all know that. And if you don't know that, this is one of the most important things about Lambda that you need to know before you can use or leverage this service. Coming back to my introduction, as I say, I call myself the cloud simplifier. And why the cloud simplifier? Because I simplify the cloud for you. Now this is my LinkedIn URL. This is my LinkedIn name. Sorry, it's not the URL. It's just the name. This is my LinkedIn name. It's Tejas Mahendrakar. If you search this, you will find a guy wearing this kind of jacket, and that's me. You can definitely add me to your network. If you want to follow me on YouTube, The Cloud Minds is the name of my channel. And if you have any doubts and if you want me to serve you or clarify your doubts, you can always send an email to my email ID tejasvi.mahendrakar@gmail.com. The M is small. If you observe here, the M is big here. It's not big, it's small m. So you can go ahead and send me an email with any of your queries, and I'll try my best to answer them. Alright guys, let's go ahead and try to understand what is a Lambda function, because we have already spoken about what is a Lambda function. We've tried to create it using the Terraform. We had an issue, we had an error, we tried to rectify the error. That was one of the practical examples of how you rectify the error, alright, and how you get the Lambda function working. Now guys, here what I'm going to do, as I said, I'm going to integrate the Lambda and S3 together, and whatever I put in the S3, an event will be triggered. Now be very careful and listen to this very carefully. An event will be triggered from the S3 bucket. You can specify the S3 bucket as well. An event will be triggered from there, and it will invoke the Lambda, and you can see what has been invoked inside the CloudWatch logs. Now what are the CloudWatch logs? CloudWatch logs, or CloudWatch, is one of the services within AWS, guys, wherein everything that you want to print or everything about the services is being logged. Alright, so let's go ahead. I think you're already excited to understand how this Lambda function works and how can we integrate it with S3, how can we trigger it, how can we automate this entire process. Now let me go ahead and quickly create a Lambda function from scratch using a function name. I'll provide just name such as Lambda S3, let's not use the hyphen, S3 integration demo. Let me use this name. Now the runtime that I want to choose here is Python. I'm very comfortable using Python, as I've already told you, and I don't need to do anything else. I'll just leave everything as default. For example, the IAM role creation, I'll just leave it by default because it will automatically create the IAM role with the Lambda function, and it will create the role to log anything in the CloudWatch logs itself. All right. So as we speak, you see that the Lambda function is created. Now this is the Lambda function that is created, and you see that there is a boilerplate code already written here. Now guys, now if you see here, this Lambda function has a boilerplate code, as I said, and if you see, the Lambda handler is the entry point within the Lambda function. It takes two parameters, an event and the context. Now what are these event and the context? Event is metadata or the data about any of the triggers that you add. Now if you see from the destination, so from the source, so it is a data about any trigger that you add in the source. For example, if you see here, there is a button called add trigger and there is a button called add destination. So you can add a source or multiple sources, you can get the Lambda triggered and you can send it to the destination by making some changes to it. Now one of the practical examples that I can state here that we had previously used in my previous organization is to get the data from one of the PDF or HTML files, process it, and then save it as a TXT or CSV file and then send it to the cloud search. So this was one of the projects that I had worked on, and this is one of the practical examples that we had done. We had added the cloud search as destination, and trigger was the S3 bucket where it had HTML and PDF files. We had restricted the Lambda to work only if there are HTML and PDF files. I'll show you how that can be done as well. Now for if you come back to the code, I'll just write here print hello world, which is our favorite sentence, or just two-letter word. We always try to print hello world whenever we are trying to learn something, and I feel that here even I am learning something new, and that's the reason why I am trying to document my journey and then tell you all what I've learned. All right, now what I'll do is, just to make you all understand what the event has, I'll just put the event and the context. I'll just print out the event and the context here as well. Print context is, I'll just tell you what the context is. Now context is the metadata about the Lambda itself, guys. So whatever you want to look at, the details about the Lambda, for example, what RAM it has, what was its ephemeral storage, etc., how long it ran, everything can be gotten from this context. I'll show you how it works. Now for it to work, we'll have to be very careful, and whatever changes we make, we have to deploy those changes, guys. All right. Now if you see, there is an S3 bucket that I have already. This is my test bucket 02 February, which I had created on 2nd of February, and it doesn't have any objects as of now. Right. Now what I'll do is, I'll add a trigger. I'll add the S3 bucket as the trigger, and whatever is the event within that. For example, if I put any new object, if there is any delete object, the Lambda gets triggered, and that is what we are expecting. All right. So what I'll do is, here to trigger the configuration, I'll select S3 here, and then if you click on the buckets, it will give me what are the buckets in my account, guys. All right. So I'll select the bucket that I just shown you. This is the bucket. My test bucket is 2nd February 2024, and that's the bucket we have chosen here. All right. If you see, that's the same bucket we have chosen here. Now when you come to event types, as of now, I'll leave it as default for all objects of create events, and I'll not add any of the delete or restore or any other events. I'll not add them. I'll only restrict it to all object create event itself. With what it means is, whenever there is a create event or whenever there is any object that is put into S3, an event will be triggered, notified, and this event will notify the Lambda, and Lambda gets triggered, guys. All right. Now here you can use the prefix as well as suffix. Prefix is something, for example, if you say anything that starts with image / I don't want to use that, or I want to use only that, it'll restrict only that. This is the fine grain control that we have with the Lambda itself. And here, for example, I can say get data or trigger the Lambda only if there are suffixes ending with HTML or PDF or .txt, for example, right? I want the lambda to be triggered only if these are the cases. I'll remove this, but this I'm just showing you as an example. You can go ahead and try this in your free tier account, which is available for you for 1 year, guys. All right. And now there is one important acknowledgement that we have to do here. We just to avoid the recursive invocations of lambda, the source and destination, the trigger and the destination have to be separate. If you use the same source and destination, so the lambda keeps triggering because it is putting the object back in S3, and the S3 it will provide a trigger notification or an event notification, and it will trigger the lambda, and the lambda will put back the details in S3 again. So it is a never ending loop, and we want to avoid that. So I'll acknowledge here stating that the source and destination buckets will be different, definitely, or they might be different services as well altogether. So what I'll do is I'll just add this, and once we add, I'm so sorry, there is some configuration overlap. Configuration cannot be the same bucket. Let me go ahead and see what the problem is. Alright guys, it seems that there was some issue with the bucket itself. That's the reason why I have created a new bucket. If you see that I've created a new bucket. So this is the bucket that I've created. It's a new bucket altogether that I've created with yesterday's date. Alright, and been able to add this as a trigger to the lambda function. Now what happens is, whenever there is a put object, whenever there is a create event object within this bucket, the lambda gets triggered, and then it will provide us all the details on what is the event and what is the context as well. So what we have done here is we have printed 3 things. One is the hello world, then the event, and then the context. All right. Now if you go back to the monitor and look at the monitor, there is nothing. You will not be able to see anything because there is no data. This is a newly created lambda function, because if you would have seen, initially we have created the lambda function and there is no data available here because it is just being created. And then there is the new bucket called my lambda test bucket, which has the date of which has yesterday's date, and there is nothing here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and upload an object, and you will see that there is a trigger event that happens, and then the lambda invocation happens. Now I'll pause here and then I'll come back after I add the files. Alright guys, so this is one of the files that I've added. It is an image which is 5-step infographic. This is the name of the image. It can be any name, it can be any object for that matter. And then you can, as I said, you can only restrict the prefix of that. You can restrict the prefix while we are triggering the lambda function, but now we don't have to worry about it because we have enabled everything in this. Alright, when I say upload, this object is uploaded to the S3 and the lambda function gets triggered. Now I believe that the lambda function has already gotten triggered, but just a second, we just have to look at this file that it has been uploaded. Yes, it is uploaded properly. If you refresh this, you can see that the file has been uploaded, and I'm sure that the lambda function is also gotten triggered. Let me go back to monitor. Let's look at the CloudWatch. Now, as I said previously as well, we can look at the CloudWatch and then we can see everything has been logged that is related to the lambda function. Now, if you see, this is one of the log groups that has been automatically created for us when we created the lambda function. The name of the log group will be similar to the name of the lambda function, and if you see here, the last event, the latest event that is being done today, which is the 14th, and the bucket that we had created was on 12th. So now the time here is 16:39, which it has created. The log has been created here, and then if you see, it has printed 3 things. The 3 things that we wanted. First is the hello world. Then it is the event, which is a JSON which has all the details about the event, the trigger, the S3 bucket that we had configured. You can configure any different triggers to trigger the lambda functions, but for the demonstration purposes, we have added the S3 bucket as the lambda trigger. Now you see that this is the name of the bucket. This was the ARN for the lambda function, the bucket, and the name of the file that we had triggered was this. This is the size of the file, etc. All the details you will get here, and then the context, as we talked about, The context is the Lambda context, which has all the details about the current Lambda function that is being triggered. Alright, so you see that the Lambda function has been triggered. Now it will take some time. For example, oh no, we can see that the Lambda function, the details have already been here. I see that it is 7.29 milliseconds, and there was one invocation count, right? And there was no error, there was just success. That's the reason why you don't see any error here. You just see a success green dot here. Now this is a very beautiful matrix, guys. If you want to look at how the Lambda functions are triggered, you can come here, and because this is internally triggered, you don't see the Lambda invocation externally. If you want to look at it, you can just come back here in the monitors tab, and then you can look at what it has been triggered. Alright guys, this is what I wanted to show you guys, how the Lambda and S3 gets integrated together. And if you have any doubt, as I said, you can always send me an email. You can try this out, send me an email if you have any issues, and I'll try to sort it out. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, trust me, you're missing a lot, and I request you all to subscribe to my channel and not to miss any such kind of contents. Alright guys, this is Tejas signing off, and you have a great day.